Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV Now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down some of those big headlines coming from Washington and Atlanta to see how it impacts us right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. As always, we're being joined right now by WSAV Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer in Washington, D.C. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Another busy week in Washington and another busy week down here in Georgia. I mean, election season is heating up. I mean, my absentee ballot has already been accepted, but today is the first day of early voting in Georgia. Lines have already begun forming all across Savannah here. We have reporters out talking to people out waiting in line. So that's going to be insane. But also going on right now in Washington, we have a huge historic nomination process as people are heading to the polls to vote for to vote for the next president, either a second term for President Trump or for Joe Biden. And we are seeing a lot of action on the Hill with the confirmation hearings going on of Amy Coney Barrett. She was nominated in the middle of not only a pandemic, but as people have been voting, and there's been a lot of contention, a lot of discussion going back and forth about her nomination process. So Kelly, I know you are keeping an eye out all day today, and obviously as the next 2 weeks go on with our confirmation hearings, you're going to be keeping an eye out on all of what's going on and what some of our lawmakers are saying, because our lawmakers, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, he is the chairman of that committee, of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. So he's the one leading these proceedings. So Kelly, what are you keeping an eye out for? What are you looking out for as these hearings keep going, as these hearings progress?
Well, like you said, for South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he's also in a really tough reelection, as are a few other members who are on this committee. So not only is it all eyes on this Senate confirmation process, it's all eyes on these candidates who really have these last few weeks to make their case to the American people. He wants to show that he can get a conservative judge with conservative values to the seat on the Supreme Court. And as you mentioned, with the speed this has taken, that's what Democrats have been saying as I've been listening in this morning. That basically they insisted that they were going to go forward with a nomination. They were going to fill this before the election and consider President Trump's nominee. They announced that the night that Justice Ginsburg had passed. So they were saying this is just had started as a shameful process and it continues to do so. That's what Vermont Senator Leahy had just said before I came on here with you. So they're going to be talking about the speed. They're going to be talking about the danger that they think this poses to the Affordable Care Act, which is coming up on the docket at the Supreme Court the week after the election. So they think that's what the rush is for. They think that they want a Supreme Court justice seated before that comes up, and also to be seated if there's any election lawsuits that happen in the wake of Election Day. But Republicans say that this is their right to do this. The Senator Graham said that the president is a president for 4 years, not 3 years. They believe this is constitutional. So they are going forward with it, and that is what we are watching today.
Yeah, I mean, a great point you brought up there about what Senator Leahy said. I mean, just listening to the opening remarks from the ranking minority leader in the committee, Senator Feinstein from California, she gave a whole speech about the Affordable Care Act and health care and how it's impacting people in their states from where they're coming from. And then Senator Leahy said the same thing. I'm sure we're going to hear that from all of the Democrats on that committee. One other notable Democrat we should talk about also too is Senator Kamala Harris, who is right now in the running to be the next vice president of the United States if she's elected with Joe Biden. So, I mean, there definitely is going to be a lot of focus from Democrats on the potential, implications and the potential future things that could be ruled on by the Supreme Court with with a Justice Barrett on the court. It could turn into something like in 2000 when we saw in the Gore Bush election when the Supreme Court ultimately decided who the president was going to become. So we'll definitely just be keeping an eye out and be following your reporting all along the next 2 weeks as these hearings progress. But something else I really wanted to touch on as well was talking about this COVID stimulus. We are talking for months about the possibility for another round of stimulus. We talked about the HEROES Act, which just stalled in the Senate. And now we saw the president flip-flopping kind of back and forth between saying he was going to stop all negotiations until after Election Day, coming back and saying he's going to up them again. and then offering more money than what the Democrats and Republicans collectively were asking for. So there's a lot of questions here, Kelly. From what you know about the latest round of negotiations, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for people who are being hurt, right? Who are hurting right now because they're either still out of work, still unemployed, still waiting for those initial stimulus unemployment benefits to roll in.
Yeah, and the answer to your question is we don't know yet. We don't know if this is going to happen before the election, if it's going to happen after. There's been so much back and forth within this past week. Just a week ago, I had talked with Senator Tillis, who said he talked to the president just a week ago tonight on a Monday night, saying they had discussed the stimulus. That is something he wanted to get done. Like you said, the very next day, he said, nope, we are waiting until after the election. And then it was, okay, let's do a direct payment to Americans. Let's do another $1,200 check. And then it was back to let's do it and let's go even bigger than Democrats said. So it's been so many changes, and also now getting some pushback from GOP on that number, because whether Mitch McConnell can get Republicans to come on board with a bigger number, they're worried about spending so much money. That's where they're kind of stuck on this. That's why Republicans and Democrats haven't come to an agreement, because the number of Republicans who need to come to the floor and vote for this, they're not getting, because they don't want to have a big dollar sign. So whatever the president says, at the end of the day, you have to see if it's actually going to get passed in the Senate. And that's where you have to look. Do they have the Republican support to vote this through? Do they have the Democrat support to vote this through? So that's really where we're at. And right now, they're not here. Right now, the full Senate is not here. It's the Judiciary Committee is back for the Senate confirmation process, but the full Senate doesn't return until next week. And then I believe that gives us about 2 weeks before the election. So it really is getting tight. And whether they come to a solution, I know we've been talking about this each and every week, and I wish I had a better answer for the people listening, but we just don't know if there's going to be some relief in sight before election day.
And I think you bring up a lot of stuff coming up in the next 2 weeks, not just obviously the confirmation hearings that are on TV right now, not just the negotiations for the stimulus bill, but we're also seeing all of the stuff going on for election day. We're going to see our representatives leaving to try and do that last minute campaigning, and a lot of these races across the country are getting even tighter right now. I mean, right here in Georgia, right here in South Carolina, extremely tight races. Something again, want to really touch on quickly before we go to was last week we saw the first and only vice presidential debate, which was let's say the attention was defrayed by a little fly, obviously, that flew onto Vice President Mike Pence's head. That seemed to be where Twitter went to during that whole debate. But we definitely saw a lot of discussion and honestly a lot of deflecting of questions from both sides. I mean, Senator Harris would not answer the question at all about whether or not her and Vice President Biden would support packing the Supreme Court and adding more justices to the court. So she did not answer that at all. I mean, again, also, obviously, Vice President Pence also deflected some other questions as well. But Kelly, really quickly, just want to touch on impact and what it means. What was some of the things that people on the Hill were saying after seeing that debate? What were they saying that it meant? And did it really work to kind of help some undecided voters figure out who they want to vote for?
Yeah, some of the reaction from Capitol Hill, and I have some sound bites I can share with you from interviews I did after the debate happened with North Carolina Democratic Congresswoman Alma Adams. She said that she thought Harris did a great job. She thought that what she saw was pretty much like what Americans saw for the first presidential debate, was that President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence did the same kind of attack style in terms of interrupting the opponent. But when I asked that question to some of the Republican lawmakers I talked to, like Georgia Congressman Doug Collins, he said that's a debate. That's what debating is called. It's called kind of interrupting and jumping in when you hear something that you don't feel you agree with, and creating a debate platform. So well, obviously it was very split down party lines, very split down the middle on the reaction to that. But definitely, I think they all could agree it was a bit more civil than what we saw in the presidential debate.
I think the vice president's tone was good. The debates are not supposed to be simply you talk, and there's no interaction. In fact, most people don't like that. They know that's not real. So I think he was very honest and open, and again, used her record to highlight the hypocrisy that's going on right now.
The same interruptions and just in a different city. Pence was forced to answer some of the same failures and over and over again. But Kamala did a good job talking about all of the families across the country and the impact that COVID-19 has had on them.
With this last minute left before we have to go, I want to also just really touch on that last, it was a forum. It was supposed to be a debate, but it turned into a forum between Democratic nominee for South Carolina Senate, Jamie Harrison, and incumbent Republican Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Again, it was supposed to be a debate that took place through Nexstar on WSAV, WSPA, some of our other stations in South Carolina and Georgia. However, it turned into a different format and online. It turned into a forum where each candidate was interviewed one at a time because of COVID concerns. Kelly, you were following that debate really closely. What happened really? You know, how did it go from your stereotypical debate into this weird sort of hybrid of the two?
Well, basically, Jamie Harrison's campaign and himself had said, we won't come to the debate stage unless Senator Graham says he will get tested for COVID before he comes to the stage. Senator Graham wouldn't. And he kind of made the defense that, well, do you have to get tested every time before you go into your job? Or, you know, should I have to get tested? And he's also not getting tested for the Supreme Court hearing this week in that same defense. So basically, the two sides couldn't come to an agreement. So what they did was they split it into a forum where they had Harrison go first and basically do a series of questions in like an interview portion, and then another 30 minutes halfway through with Senator Graham. It was interesting because I felt like I was able to take a lot, and I hope the viewers were as well. Without any interruptions, you were able to get a sense of them on the issues in a longer form than what you hear on our general news stories. So they did get to dig into the issues, but it was interesting that within just hours of the debate, which then turned into a forum, that they had that switch. So it was really interesting to hear how coronavirus impacted the election and that debate there.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting too, because we were all preparing for a debate. I mean, I was ready to, you know, kind of see the back and forth, but I think you do bring up another great point there too. It kind of was able to give a lot more clarity and not have to deal with a lot of those interruptions and a lot of the having to need someone to fact check what people are saying in the back and forth rhetoric of a stereotypical debate. But we could go on for hours about this, of course, but that's all the time we have right now. There's so much going on that we need to get focused on. But thank you so much, Kelly, for sitting down with me to start off our week and to talk about some big things coming up and for keeping an eye out on all things Washington for us.
As always, thank you so much.
You can see Kelly's latest stories on our website. Just go to wsav.com/Washington, and you can catch up on previous episodes of All Politics Are Local on our website as well. Just go to wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal. Thank you so much for watching. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.